Something deeply unsettling is going down in Indianapolis right now, and we need to talk about it. The Indiana Fever front office is actively humiliating their own franchise. That is not an exaggeration or hyperbole. I am looking at the footage, the statements, the interviews, and it is a masterclass in organizational mess. It is so bad it actually makes you angry. Welcome back. If you have been keeping up with this absolute disaster in the WNBA, you know exactly what I mean. But if you are just tuning in, we have to unpack how a team with the most electrifying player in the league is sabotaging itself. Today, we are going to expose the cover-up and show you the actual lie. We are talking about why the Indiana Fever just made their biggest mistake of the season, forcing one of their own to stand before the media and defend the indefensible. Let us rewind to that Portland game, because the timeline here is absolutely critical to understanding how bad this situation really is. Picture this exact moment. Caitlin Clark is in the zone. You know the one I mean, right? Before we go any further, if you are enjoying this, smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep making videos you love. Share this video with your friends so they do not miss any of the drama. It is when a player gets so locked in that the rim looks like an ocean. Every move is fluid and the basketball almost guides itself. Just 3.5 minutes into the game, she scored every single point for the Fever. 8-4. That is not some lucky streak. That is one superstar completely taking over and dominating. The momentum is building in real time. You feel it right through the television screen. The arena's electric and the crowd is locked in. Teammates are in sync. The offense has purpose. This is championship level basketball. This is what separates a generational talent from everybody else on the court. This is exactly how the Fever should look with their superstar controlling the pace and the tempo. Everything is clicking. They are building the foundation for what could be a massive statement win. Then something happened that made every fan with working eyes stop and ask the exact same question. What on earth is Stephanie White doing? What is this staff thinking? What is the logic behind the choice they just made? Because the head coach pulled her. Not slowly and not as part of some normal rotation. She subbed Caitlin Clark out right during a hot run. No warning, no planned rotation, just benched. And it was not just for a quick play to reset either. She confronted her right on the sideline. The body language said it all, and viewers at home saw the tension. The exchange between coach and player got heated. Words were clearly being spoken. Tensions were high. An obvious issue was being hashed out in front of the whole team and the entire TV audience. Then Raven Johnson, a rookie with barely any high-pressure experience, got subbed in to take her place. In just minutes, the game started to slip away. The huge momentum Clark built vanished, and Portland went on a massive run. The exact kind of run that shifts the energy and direction of a game. The Fever had no answer. The bench lineup simply could not hold the line. By the final buzzer, it was an absolute blowout loss. The game was totally out of reach. The Fever looked completely broken, disorganized, and like a team with zero leadership. The entire basketball community watched it unfold live, and the public reaction was instant and incredibly fierce. The internet completely exploded. This was not some subtle move casual fans missed. It was loud, aggressive, and impossible to ignore. Fans were not just angry about losing. They were furious at the decision that caused it, and they had every right to be. This was not some tactical coaching decision to teach a lesson or develop youth. This was pure ego. A clear power play to send a message to their star. It was a coach making substitutions out of personal frustration rather than actual basketball logic. Social media was on fire. Basketball Twitter was losing its mind, with analysts questioning how professional coaches could make such a boneheaded substitution. How do you take a generational star playing at an elite level and pull her out of the game? How do you justify that tactically? How do you explain it to the fans, let alone defend it to the media? The backlash was instant and severe, and it was completely justified, especially with the Fever sitting at 4-4. 4 wins and 4 losses is a deeply underwhelming record for a roster with this much raw talent. This is not some young rebuilding squad. This is a potential contender underperforming in a massive way. This franchise was supposed to dominate the Eastern Conference, but instead they are barely above 500. Every loss compounds the issue, magnifying every mistake. Benching their star player was the exact breaking point where the entire fan base looked at the team and realized something is seriously wrong. Something is broken. So what did the Fever do? What is the protocol when a massive public relations nightmare starts to boil over? How does a pro team react when their head coach completely embarrasses themselves and their star franchise player on national television in front of millions of fans? Normally, you would expect a press conference. You would think the general manager would step up and explain this bizarre decision. You would think the coaching staff would take full ownership of the mess. You would expect a clear strategy to repair the damage and move forward. But that is not what happened. Far from it. Instead, the Indiana Fever chose a calculated, cynical route that exposed exactly how they handle a crisis. They sent out Lexie Hull. Now, Lexie is a crucial piece here because she is not just some random player or bench warmer. She is one of Caitlin Clark's closest friends on the team. The fans adore her, and her teammates highly respect her. She is the exact type of player fans connect with deeply. She has real credibility and massive trust. Her bond with Caitlin makes people sit up and listen whenever she speaks. And the front office absolutely weaponized that connection. They grabbed a genuine friendship between two players and twisted it into a corporate PR shield. They stared at the media firestorm and the raging fans and basically said, "We know how to fix this. We will send Caitlin's best friend out there to tell everyone everything is fine. We will use their bond. We will exploit that trust. So when Lexie says there is no issue, people will believe her out of sheer respect." It is incredibly calculating, completely transparent, and one of the most insulting PR moves I have ever seen in sports. Think about what that says about this franchise. Think about the message you send when you force players to stand up and defend a head coach they might not even support. Think about the lack of respect when you willingly sacrifice a player's public integrity just to protect your failing coaches. This is not normal. This is not standard protocol. It is pure desperation masquerading as a strategy. When Lexie sat down for that press conference, you could literally feel the tension. The reporters did not hold back. They asked her directly about the drama. They noted that everyone was talking about it, demanding to know what went down. This was the big moment. This was the perfect window for a teammate to keep it real. This was the chance for a true friend to speak honestly. She could have said, "Look, Caitlin is our engine, and she is easily the most important player out there. She needs to be on the court. Emotions boiled over because we all want to win, but we are a unit and we move forward together." She could have just been human. She could have been completely authentic, protecting her friend while remaining a solid teammate, but that is not how it went down. Instead, Lexie delivered what can only be called a masterclass in corporate PR spin and deflection. She downplayed the entire situation, claiming it was just standard in-game frustration between a coach and a player. She immediately shifted the blame to the opposing defense, claiming they were playing physical and drawing quick fouls. She emphasized foul trouble as if that somehow justifies benching your superstar in the very first quarter. She painted that glaring sideline confrontation as a normal, everyday, heat-of-the-moment occurrence in women's basketball. She actually had the nerve to claim that nobody in the locker room was even talking about the incident, that it was not creating tension, that it was nothing, just standard pro basketball. But the entire WNBA community watched this unfold and saw right through it. They recognized the corporate script immediately. They saw a young player forced into a position to lie for her franchise, and they absolutely hated it. Let me be direct here because we need to address this honestly. Lexie, I respect your game and your character as a person, so I have to keep it completely real. You were straight up lying in that interview I am not saying you were just spinning a narrative in some clever, technically defensible way. I am saying you were totally full of it, downplaying a massive systemic issue that every single viewer knows is a real crisis. You acted as a human shield for a coaching staff that is consistently failing your team on the floor, and the fans saw right through it. They spotted the corporate script the second it came out of your mouth, knowing those were not your genuine words. They knew those talking points were handed to you directly by the front office or the team's PR department. Fans could hear the massive gap between what you were saying and what you actually believed. That is what happens today. Sports fans are just too smart now. They have seen too many PR disasters, and they smell fake excuses from miles away. To suggest that benching your star player 3 minutes into the first quarter, right in the middle of an 8-4 run, is just standard basketball because of some ticky-tack fouls is completely ridiculous. It does not hold up to even basic basketball analysis. We have eyes, and we understand this game. We all watch the tape. When you have a generational star like Caitlin Clark, you let her play through early fouls. You trust her instincts, her basketball IQ, and you trust that she understands the court on a level most people never will. You do not pull her off the court just to make a point. You do not throw a young player into the fire to preach about toughness, and you definitely do not bench your best player because you are frustrated with the officiating. And you sure don't watch your opponent go on a massive scoring run that blows the game wide open, all because of your ego and a desperate need to show who's boss. That is not how you win basketball games. And it is definitely not how you develop your top talent. That is how you breed pure dysfunction. But this is where things got downright insulting, where the interview crossed from basic damage control into something far more cynical. Lexie actually blamed the intense media spotlight. She literally claimed Caitlin has a camera on her 24/7, and that is the only reason anyone is noticing this mess. She tried to gaslight the entire fan base, hinting that the only reason this is even news is because people are watching the young superstar too closely. Like, we are just obsessed with her. Like, we are overreacting to something totally normal. That is gaslighting at its finest. She is trying to make fans feel guilty for pointing out that the head coach publicly humiliated their franchise star. She wants to convince everyone that the real issue is not the coaching decision itself. No, the real problem is that you are paying too much attention and getting too invested in just one player. Apparently, you are just reading too much into something completely ordinary. But guess what? That is not how this works. We are not calling this out because of some obsession with Caitlin Clark. We are calling it out because we are watching a brilliant roster get systematically mismanaged. We have watched this coaching staff take verbal swipes at Caitlin. We have seen offensive schemes that look completely disconnected from her unique skill set and strengths. We have watched tension bubble under the surface for weeks and noticed a pattern of terrible decisions. This is not some media invention. It is reality on the court. This franchise is in crisis. Using a personal friendship with Caitlin to pretend everything is fine is exactly what a desperate, cornered team does when they run out of real answers. It is manipulation of the highest order, forcing a player to sacrifice her own credibility to protect a front office, making terrible decisions, and the fans are not buying it. Not for a single second. Not even close. The comment section instantly erupted with fans calling this exactly what it is. Everyday fans were pointing out the real issues with a level of clarity that no corporate PR talking point could touch. One fan summed up the entire mess perfectly, asking a question that cut straight to the heart of the matter. Where's the front office? Where's the coaching staff? Why do we never hear them explain these moves to the press? Why does it always fall on the players to answer for awful front office decisions? That is the million-dollar question. It is the one thing nobody in Indianapolis wants to address because the truth is uncomfortable. It exposes what is really going on behind the scenes, pure cowardice, masquerading as standard organizational protocol. When a head coach benches their superstar out of sheer ego and frustration, costing them the game, that coach needs to sit under the bright lights. That coach should be the one sweating under intense pressure and answering directly to the media. They should be forced to defend their awful substitution patterns and overall philosophy. Stephanie White needs to be front and center, explaining her reasoning to everyone. She needs to justify how benching a star in the middle of a dominant run helps this team win basketball games. The general managers should be stepping up to cool down the drama and clarify their actual direction. The front office should show some transparency about their vision and support for the coaching staff. But instead, they simply hide. They retreat back into their executive suites, pull the blinds shut, and push their players directly into the crossfire. We have seen this same pattern play out multiple times this season. They sent Caitlin herself to handle damage control after the first major controversy. They forced their franchise player, the one person they should be protecting, to go out and answer tough questions about management decisions. Now they are using Lexie to clean up their mess a second time, banking on her close relationship with Caitlin to diffuse the anger. They are treating real personal friendships like cheap PR tools. They believe that if Caitlin's best friend gets on camera and tells everyone that things are totally fine, claims there is no real issue and that it is just basketball, then the fans will buy it, keep purchasing merch, and move on. They expect everyone to stop posting angry comments and just buy the narrative, but that is not how modern fans operate. That is not how sports discourse works anymore. It is deeply manipulative. Another fan nailed it in the comments, cutting right through the spin to say, no, this is not just part of the game. This coaching problem is very real. The game plan is broken, and they are absolutely right. The facts are simple. A starter who belongs on the bench finished the game with 0 points. Your franchise superstar got benched while completely dominating the court, and the team got absolutely blown out. All of their momentum vanished because of one awful substitution decision. These are actual, undeniable facts on the court. No amount of corporate spin is going to change those facts, and no media training can erase what we all witnessed. No friendly interviews or pre-planned sound bites can rewrite what actually happened out on that basketball court. The fans get it. They know exactly when they are being talked down to. They know they're being treated like they're blind, and they absolutely hate it. And trust me, the interview didn't stop there. The reporter kept digging, bringing up the massive hype and expectations placed on this squad before the season even started. They hit him with the slow start and how badly they've underperformed so far. They flat out asked Lexie about the fans who are openly calling for the coach to be fired. They demanded to know what the vibe is really like between Stephanie White and her players. They wanted to know if things were boiling over behind closed doors, but Lexie, repeating the corporate script she was obviously handed, doubled down on every single line. She insisted the team loves the coaching staff. Then she gave the usual talk about how it's a long year and winning in the WNBA is incredibly tough. She talked about how much the roster trusts one another and how much they trust the coaching staff. It was just PR talking point after talking point, each one sounding more fake and out of touch than the last. But then she said something that actually made me mad. It showed just how far the front office was willing to push her. Lexie stared right into the lens and said, a handful of our games were within 5 points of winning or losing. So we're not focusing on what our record says, but we know we can play a lot better. Hold on right there. We need to pause and look at what just went down. Lexie, I've got to stop you right there because this excuse has to go. You cannot keep doing this. You cannot sit at a podium in year 3 of the Caitlin Clark era and preach about moral victories. You can't tell loyal fans who spend their money and energy that almost winning is fine when you are sitting at 4-4. You're playing 500 basketball. You are winning exactly half your games. You aren't beating expectations. You are failing in almost every way. This is not a rebuilding team trying to find its feet. You aren't a young squad learning how to win. You have Caitlin Clark. You have a generational talent, one of the best to ever play the game. You've got amazing teammates, massive resources, and endless eyes on you. You have all the tools to dominate, yet you play like a brand new expansion team. The offense is totally stagnant. Ball movement is predictable, spacing is chaotic, and the player rotations make absolutely no sense. Players have no idea when they'll get minutes. The defense is a mess. with no clear scheme and zero real strategy. There's no identity. You can't sell this close game excuse when fans watch the Portland Fire, an actual expansion team, blow you right out of your own arena. Nobody's fallen for the spin. The fans are way too smart. They've watched enough hoops to know what real basketball looks like. They get the game. They see the difference between a team trying to find its way and one that's just badly mismanaged. They know the difference between dropping a close one and getting blown off the floor because of bad coaching. They see the difference between a normal struggling squad and a franchise that is actively sabotaging itself from within. And that's exactly why the Indiana Fever front office decided to throw Lexie out there. They sent her to do a massive favor for a coaching staff that is currently drowning in its own mistakes. That's how it looks on the surface. And that's exactly what millions of people see watching this slow motion train wreck happen in real time. They basically threw her to the wolves to take the heat off themselves. They wanted her to take the punches, standing as a human shield between angry fans and the coaching staff. But it's totally backfiring because today's basketball fans are way too smart to fall for that trick. They're too connected, they have too much data, see right through corporate spin, and know exactly when they're being manipulated. They know when a player is being used as a shield and when a franchise values saving face over actually winning games. The old PR playbook is completely dead. Those cheap strategies just do not work anymore. Lexie Hull cannot clean up this mess for them. A few nice quotes about team chemistry and trusting the process will never fix a fundamentally broken organization. Your head coach actively hates the way your franchise star wants to play. That's the real issue. That is what's tearing this team apart and turning elite players into incredibly frustrated athletes. It's what drags a potential championship contender down to mediocrity. And no amount of soft, friendly interviews will ever change that reality. No amount of media control is going to fix the actual on-court disasters. No amount of positive spin will make this disappear. The Indiana Fever front office has to figure out how to fix this disaster, and they need to do it fast. Because right now, the clock is ticking loudly. Fan patience is entirely gone. People are already calling out the lies online. Every single time Stephanie White makes a bad decision, the internet absolutely explodes. Every single time a rotation looks off or a substitution pattern makes zero sense, the whole basketball world is watching, analyzing, and ripping apart every single decision. Every time Caitlin Clark looks upset on the bench, it goes viral. Clips spread like wildfire across social media. Fans talk about it, they argue over it, they get furious. Every single loss just proves the growing theory that something is completely broken in Indianapolis. Every matchup brings more proof that this entire organization is failing to function properly. Every game shows there is serious trouble at the top. But instead of fixing the real issue, the massive clash between Stephanie White's stiff, stubborn coaching style and Caitlin Clark's brilliant modern way of playing the game, the front office just slaps a cheap Band-Aid over a bleeding wound. They are just praying it goes away. They hope the season magically turns around with pure talent outplaying awful coaching. They hope a few decent wins will hide the story and make everyone forget. They think winning cures everything. But that is not how it works in this age of constant social media and nonstop coverage. The spotlight is too bright, the critics are too smart, the analysis is too sharp, and the fans are plugged in. Every play is judged in real time. Every sub gets critiqued. Every timeout and lineup shift is argued online. There is absolutely nowhere to hide. You cannot just spin this story away anymore. The truth is out, and the noise will only get louder until they fix the real problems. We need to look at the actual facts because they are vital to understanding why things are so bad right now. The WNBA has blown up in a way that absolutely nobody predicted a few seasons ago. We have league expansion, charter planes, and packed arenas night after night. Huge television contracts worth hundreds of millions. Record-breaking shirt sales and eyes watching from all over the globe. And this massive boom, every single bit of it, is because of the very player Stephanie White chose to embarrass on the bench. The Indiana Fever are no longer just another ordinary basketball team. They are a worldwide phenomenon, a massive traveling attraction with millions tuning in just to watch them play. This is a billion-dollar business powerhouse now, a true cultural force, and a franchise operating on a level we could not imagine 5 years ago. When you get that much spotlight, you have to handle a totally different level of pressure. You cannot run a billion-dollar franchise like a small-town amateur club. You cannot let a coach's ego scramble the lineup during the first quarter of an important game. Bench your franchise player to teach a lesson, and the whole league, media, and millions of fans will react instantly. That is simply not how modern professional sports operate anymore. You do not run a top-tier team like that. Caitlin Clark needs an offense that feeds her strengths, not one that holds her back. She deserves a coach who knows you support your star player through both the good times and the bad. You do not bench LeBron James 3 minutes in over a foul. You do not yank Steph Curry because he missed 2 quick shots. You do not sideline a rare genius because the defense gets physical or because you want to make a point about grit. You let superstars work things out on the court, trust their talent, give them the space to make plays, and use their instincts. Design the playbook around what they do best, not against it. That is how champions are made and elite players are developed. That is how you win at the highest level. Yet Stephanie White clings to an old school, rigid scheme that actively suffocates the most exciting talent women's basketball has ever witnessed. She values control more than winning. She puts her playbook over her team's strengths. She chooses punishment over building up her players. And the management is just as guilty here, forcing players like Lexie Hull to stand in front of the press and lie to protect their coach. They choose the coach over the player. They choose the scheme over their superstar. They would rather protect their own authority than build a champion. This decision will haunt this franchise for years. It is going to define exactly how people look back at this era of Indiana basketball. It determines whether this incredible generation of players brings home titles or ends up as massive wasted potential. Let me give you my take. Here is the hard truth that nobody in the Fever front office wants to face. Whispers are growing across the league that Caitlin Clark might be evaluating her future here if they refuse to make serious adjustments. Sources are hinting that if Indiana does not part ways with Stephanie White, if they keep favoring a struggling coach's ego over the happiness and growth of a legendary player, then we might see Caitlin Clark force her way out of Indianapolis altogether. I am not saying this is set in stone. No official word has come from her team yet. No formal warning has landed on the front office desk, but the writing is on the wall for anyone watching closely. The message is loud, and the situation is completely unsustainable. If things keep sliding down this track, if head coach Stephanie White keeps making decisions that actively undermine Caitlin Clark, this entire partnership is heading for a massive implosion. Honestly, I do not believe a single word Lexie Hull said in that interview. No disrespect to her. I absolutely love how she plays. Her hustle on the floor is undeniable. She is an outstanding basketball player and clearly an even better teammate. But her statements during that press conference were just a polished shield built to protect a cowardly front office from the rightful anger of a completely betrayed fan base. The harsh reality is impossible to ignore. The Indiana Fever are actively wasting Caitlin Clark's best years, throwing away a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Bad coaching is running her straight into the ground. A rigid system suffocates her creativity, severely limiting her ability to actually impact winning games. Then they use her teammates to gaslight the public into thinking everything is great. It is just sad. It is shameful and completely indefensible. The environment is toxic and the franchise is deeply dysfunctional. This franchise is caught in a civil war between backing their superstar and protecting their coaches, and they are choosing the staff. They are making the wrong choice. Their priorities are backwards, and the entire basketball community is watching this train wreck in slow motion. Each game is just another messy chapter. Every single defeat fuels the fire. Every terrible bench decision only makes things worse. The public understands. The fans see it clearly. The media sees it, and the league does too. Everyone except the Fever front office understands that this cannot continue. The current situation is completely unsustainable. This road leads straight to a dead end. If this franchise wants to win championships and build a real legacy, they must make a massive change. And that shift has to happen before the damage is permanent. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. Drop a comment below and let me know your take right now. Are you actually buying Lexie Hull's excuse about normal court pressure and foul trouble? Or do you see right through this corporate PR spin just like I do? Is this Indiana Fever front office the most cowardly executive group in sports for hiding behind their own roster instead of taking accountability themselves? Or do you think this is just standard protocol for the media? And the biggest question, should Caitlin Clark demand a trade if Stephanie White is not fired by the offseason? Because at this point, that might be the only option left. Smash that like button, subscribe for more raw basketball truths, and share this video around. Hit the bell and stay sharp.